can sell me the parts, no problem. They'll sell me the parts, I'll build the car, and then I lose my warranty on that car. That's fine. Then I'm taking that risk myself. But with Bugatti, they're saying that they can't sell me parts because they don't think it's safe for me to rebuild.
For months, Matt Armstrong proved that determination could accomplish what many believed was impossible. Then came the Bugatti drama, threatening to overshadow everything he had built. Most people expected the story to end there. Instead, it appears to have caught the attention of Porsche. And now, weeks after that discovery sent shockwaves across the internet, Porsche just made a move that nobody in the automotive world expected. Porsche drops the hammer. On the 24th of April, 2026, Porsche made an announcement that sent tremors through the entire automotive industry. They were selling their entire 45% stake in Bugatti Rimac, and they were also selling their 20.6% stake in the Rimac Group itself. Every last share gone. The buyer was a consortium led by HOF Capital, a New York-based investment firm with stakes in SpaceX, Anthropic, and Epic Games. Blue 5 Capital, led by former InvestCorp executive Hazem Ben Ghakem, came in as the largest investor. The financial terms were kept confidential, but Bloomberg reported that Rimac's preliminary offer had valued the joint venture at slightly over €1 billion. Porsche CEO Michael Leiters said, "Now with the sale of our stake, we demonstrate that we will focus Porsche on the core business." That sounds like a clean corporate line until you look at the numbers behind it. Porsche's operating profit had collapsed by 92.7% in 2025, from €5.64 billion to just €413 million. Their automotive division was hit even harder. Operating profit in that segment dropped 98.3%. The return on sales went from 14.1% to just 0.3%. A €3.9 billion write-down drove most of that collapse. $2.4 billion went to restructuring costs tied to reversing their electric vehicle strategy. $700 million went to battery-related activities, and another $700 million was eaten by U.S. tariffs. The company had already cut around 2,000 temporary jobs. They announced plans to eliminate 3,900 more positions by 2030. Porsche, one of the most profitable car companies on the planet just a year earlier, was bleeding. And in the middle of that financial chaos, they chose to sever ties with Bugatti completely. The timing screams more than just financial housekeeping. Because while Porsche was dumping its stake, one of the biggest automotive stories on the internet was a British YouTuber proving that the $6 million Bugatti their joint venture had tried to lock down shared its safety components with a $30,000 Audi. Think about what that looks like from a boardroom. The brand you co-own is being publicly dismantled on camera. The parts bin is being exposed. And the CEO of your joint venture is filming response videos to a guy in a workshop. The part numbers that changed everything. You would think a car that costs more than most people's houses would be built from parts that exist nowhere else on Earth. That is the whole pitch with Bugatti. Exclusivity, engineering beyond anything the rest of the industry can match. A machine so rare, so advanced, so untouchable, that even looking at one in a dealership requires a certain net worth. So when Matt Armstrong was tearing down a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Sport in Miami and he pulled out the knee airbags, cross-referenced the part numbers, and found out they are the exact same components used in an Audi A3, the internet lost its mind. We are talking about a car that sold for somewhere around $4 million when it was new, one of only 60 ever built. And the airbags protecting the driver's knees came from a car you could lease for $300 a month. That was not even the end of it. The front passenger airbag shared the same part number as the Audi as well. And the steering wheel airbag turned out to be identical to the one inside an Aston Martin DB11. Armstrong addressed the backlash head-on. He said that Bugatti does not manufacture its own airbags from scratch. They source them from other manufacturers within the Volkswagen Group, which owns both Bugatti and Audi. So the parts are identical because the companies share a parent. His exact words were, "I don't know everything, but as many airbags as I have replaced, this is as good as it's going to get." Now here is where it gets uncomfortable for Bugatti. Because the whole reason this car ended up in Armstrong's hands in the first place is that Bugatti quoted $1.7 million to fix it at their factory in Molsheim, France. They later dropped that to somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000, but still demanded the car be shipped to Europe. The owner, a Miami content creator named Alex Gonzalez, said no, and that refusal changed the trajectory of the entire story. Because what happened next was something the hypercar world had never seen before. Bugatti locked the car's VIN, not figuratively. They literally flagged the vehicle identification number in their system so that no authorized dealership anywhere in the world could sell parts for it. That is the kind of power a manufacturer holds over a car they already sold. And the fact that Porsche held a 45% stake in Bugatti Rimac while all of this was happening makes what came next feel like more than just a coincidence, Des. The CEO who broke protocol. When a CEO of a hypercar company films a public video response to a YouTuber, something has gone seriously off script. That is exactly what happened in January of 2026 when Mate Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti Rimac, posted a direct response to Armstrong's Rebuild series. And to be fair, Rimac did not come across as hostile. He was measured. He was detailed. He said the gearbox housing had shattered and the monocoque had structural damage. He explained that only a handful of people on the planet are trained to separate the rear subframe from the monocoque on a Chiron. He even debunked a viral claim that Bugatti headlights cost 150,000 euros, saying the actual price was closer to 50,000. Still absurd, but not the number floating around online. But the part that stuck with people was this. Rimac said, "We just don't think it's safe. I'd love to support it, but it's not the right thing to do." And yet, here is the tension underneath that statement. Bugatti had already made what Rimac called a fair offer to repair the car. Gonzalez declined. Rimac then speculated publicly that Gonzalez's decision was driven by clicks. That line landed differently depending on which side of the story you were standing on. Armstrong responded on a podcast later, and his take was telling. He called the dynamic between himself and Rimac a kind of Messi and Ronaldo rivalry that the internet had sensationalized. But he also dropped this line. "I do think that there is someone else behind his words." He believed someone higher up inside Bugatti had been the one to veto the parts. Meanwhile, Armstrong kept working. His team TIG welded a gearbox mount that was engineered to deliberately break in a crash. They custom-built radiators to replace the destroyed ones. And let us just pause on that detail for a moment. A Bugatti Chiron has 10 radiators. Armstrong's team fabricated replacements for the ones that were destroyed. When a pinched coolant overflow pipe needed fixing and no Bugatti parts were coming, they sorted it with a section of rigid brake hose. The car eventually started again. And that sound, the W16 quad turbo engine coming back to life in a car Bugatti said could not be fixed outside their factory, became one of the most watched automotive moments of the year. But something else was happening in the background. Something that had nothing to do with Armstrong and everything to do with the company that owned 45% of the brand he was fighting against. The rebuild Porsche could not refuse. Now here is where the story takes a turn that most people missed. Because while the Bugatti drama was dominating the headlines, Matt Armstrong was quietly doing something with Porsche that told a very different story about how manufacturers treat independent rebuilders. Armstrong bought a previous generation Porsche 991 GT3 RS for £87,000. A car that Porsche had allegedly refused to repair under warranty because the engine wear did not match the mileage shown on the odometer. Porsche suspected a mileage blocker had been used by a previous owner, so they walked away from it. Labeled it a lemon, and that was that. Armstrong took the engine apart himself. He found loose sump plugs that he suspected had lowered the oil level and contributed to the engine problems. He found a missing fuel pump fuse just sitting on the passenger seat, which is why the car would not start. He found missing camshaft finger followers and a damaged intake camshaft lobe. Someone had rebuilt this engine before and done it wrong. The cam variators on one side had been installed incorrectly. He sourced the replacement parts for around £5,500. He corrected the cam timing. The car ran without a single warning light on the dashboard. Then he did something that showed the difference between how Porsche operates and how Bugatti operates. He sent the car to a Porsche technician for a 111-point inspection to try and get the warranty reinstated. Porsche did not refuse. They did not lock the VIN. They did not blacklist the car. They ran the inspection, came back with a generally positive result, and flagged a few remaining concerns around the axle joints, brake pads, and a roll cage that was causing unusual noise. The door was open. After spending around £92,000 total, Armstrong estimated the car could be worth between £135,000 and £140,000. That is a potential $60,000 profit. But the real profit was in the comparison. Porsche played ball. Bugatti locked the gates. From simulator to the starting grid. And Porsche was not done, because the connection between Armstrong and the brand goes deeper than just letting him get a warranty inspection. In September of 2025, something happened that nobody in Armstrong's audience predicted. Matt Armstrong made his professional racing debut in a Porsche. He was invited by Racemore, a Swedish simulation racing company, to compete as a guest driver in the Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia Grand Finale at Mantorp Park in Sweden. Armstrong had bought a Racemore simulator roughly a year before. He spent the winter and spring grinding through virtual racing, putting in what the company described as countless hours. He entered the Racemore GT World Series online and performed well enough that his own crew started live streaming the events. His first real-world outing was a rainy test day at a track called Gellerudsen. That was his first time ever sitting inside a race car, on slick tires, in the rain. Despite all of that, the team from Fregus Motorsport saw enough potential to put him on the grid at Mantorp Park for the season finale. He crashed during Thursday practice. A small crash, but enough to potentially end his weekend. The team repaired the car overnight and had it ready by Friday. By the final race on Saturday, the 20th of September, Armstrong had found his pace and crossed the finish line in 13th place out of a competitive professional field. Racemore CEO Nicholas Eriksson said, "This project shows how far our simulator training can take a driver, from 100% simulation to a real Porsche Carrera Cup grid. Matt's dedication and natural talent made this debut a success. This is the same man that Bugatti refused to sell parts to. The same man whose rebuild of a Chiron prompted a CEO to question his motives publicly. And here he was, on a professional racing grid, in a Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car, competing against seasoned drivers. And the thing is, Porsche did not have to do any of this. There was no financial incentive to put a YouTuber in a Cup car. There was no marketing contract or sponsorship deal. It was a genuine invitation based on merit and performance. Armstrong proved himself in the simulator, and Porsche's ecosystem welcomed him onto a real grid. That decision says more about how Porsche views independent creators than any press release ever could. The contrast is not subtle. Porsche opened the door to the racetrack. Bugatti closed the door to the parts catalog. The 26-year chapter that just ended. To understand why Porsche's exit from Bugatti matters beyond the Armstrong story, you have to understand what Volkswagen built and what just fell apart. Volkswagen first brought Bugatti back to life in 1998. Ferdinand Piëch, the legendary and notoriously demanding CEO of the VW Group and grandson of Ferdinand Porsche himself, personally championed the revival. He wanted to build a car that could do 250 miles per hour with the air conditioning on. That obsession produced the Veyron and later the Chiron. In 2021, Bugatti entered a new phase. Porsche and Rimac Group formed the Bugatti-Rimac joint venture. Rimac took 55%. Porsche took 45%. The idea was to merge Bugatti's hypercar heritage with Rimac's electric vehicle technology. But by 2025, Porsche was in crisis. Sales in China dropped 26%. The Taycan, their electric flagship, saw deliveries fall 22%. U.S. tariffs under the Trump administration cost them roughly 700 million euros. They were removed from Germany's top-tier DAX stock index after their share price dropped more than 30%. When CEO Michael Leiters took over in January of 2026, the mandate was clear. Cut costs, sell non-core assets, focus on what actually makes money. Porsche's bread and butter is the 911, the Cayenne, the Macan. Not a hypercar joint venture producing fewer than 100 cars a year. So the stake was sold, and with it, 26 years of Volkswagen involvement in Bugatti ended completely. The future of Bugatti now sits entirely in the hands of Mate Rimac and his new investment partners. But here is the part nobody is saying out loud. Porsche did not just sell a financial stake. They sold their connection to a brand that was becoming a public relations liability in the creator era. Every time Armstrong posted a video showing a shared VW part inside a Chiron, that was a Porsche-branded problem too. Every time Rimac had to film a response video defending why a $6 million car could not be fixed by anyone outside Molsheim, Porsche's name was attached to that controversy. The sale was financial, but the timing was surgical. Now, step back from all of this and look at what actually happened in the space of about 8 months. The real winners and losers. A YouTuber from Leicester who taught himself mechanics in his dad's garage took on a $6 million hypercar that the manufacturer said could not be fixed. He found shared parts from a $30,000 Audi. He welded components that were designed to break. He fabricated radiators. He started an engine that one of the most exclusive car companies on the planet said was beyond independent repair. That same YouTuber then bought a Porsche that Porsche itself would not fix, diagnosed the problems with 5,500 pounds in parts, and was welcomed back for a factory-level inspection. He then stepped into a professional Porsche race car, competed in the Carrera Cup, and finished 13th in his first ever race. Meanwhile, Porsche's operating profit collapsed 92%. They sold their entire stake in Bugatti Rimac. They are cutting thousands of jobs. And Bugatti is now fully in the hands of Mate Rimac and a group of investors who have never built a car. The automotive industry is watching a power shift happen in real time. The old way, where manufacturers controlled every aspect of their brand, from who could buy the car, to who could fix it, to who could even talk about it on camera, that model is breaking apart. The new reality is that a guy with a YouTube channel, genuine mechanical skill, and the willingness to show the work can reach more people than a $1 billion marketing budget. And the brands that understand this early are going to be the ones that survive. Porsche let Armstrong race their car. They let him inspect their engine. They gave him a path back. Bugatti locked the VIN and told him to go away. One of those strategies builds trust with the biggest car-buying demographic on the planet. The other one builds resentment. Matt Armstrong never asked for recognition. He never posted about being ignored. He never campaigned for anyone to notice him. He just kept building. He kept showing up to the workshop, kept pulling engines apart, kept putting cameras in places manufacturers never wanted cameras to go. And eventually, the right brand noticed. Not because Armstrong demanded it, but because the work spoke for itself. The brands you pour your soul into are not always the ones that show up for you, but the ones that do tend to appear at exactly the right time. We want to hear from you on this one. Do you think Porsche played this perfectly, or were they just getting rid of a sinking ship at the right time? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is just getting started.